Wouldn't it be great to manage your portfolio on one platform? Well, now you can trade all in one place on Robinhood. That means you can trade individual stocks and ETFs and also buy and sell crypto using seriously powerful and intuitive tools at one of the lowest costs on average without needing to manage multiple apps. Robinhood makes withdrawing and depositing crypto seamless. Send crypto to your Robinhood account or send crypto from your Robinhood account to other wallets without deposit or withdrawal fees from Robinhood. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Network fees may apply to crypto transfers. Crypto transfers may not be available to all customers. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
The day after Charlie Kirk was killed, I was reading Ryan Broderick's newsletter Garbage Day, which is about life online. And there was something he wrote that I haven't been able to get out of my head since. He described the killing as the logical endpoint of 21st century America.
If you break it down into what happened, he is an influencer who was shot and killed at a school surrounded by a sea of smartphones. And if I had to summarize what life is like in 21st century America, I can't really think of a darker, more accurate portrait.
Ryan's been writing about the internet for roughly 15 years. And in his posts since Charlie Kirk's murder, he has been reckoning with how little American institutions, law enforcement, government, the media, seem to understand about the places our kids and teens and young adults are spending their days, and especially where that intersects with violence. Writing about school shootings, he said, "We have created a culture where kids grow up seeing them as a path toward fame and glory. Another consequence of how thoroughly the internet has flattened pop culture, politics, and real-life violence. All of it now is just another meme you can participate in to go viral." Ryan wrote that before Tyler Robinson was arrested for Kirk's murder. And when I got him on the line, I wanted to know if he still believed it.
I mean, in the Discord chat logs that were released by law enforcement, Robinson explains why he wrote memes on the bullets. And he says, it's all a big meme. I think he says, I'll have a stroke if Fox News reads them on air. And to me, that is very in line with what I wrote, which is that someone who's, let's say, Robinson's age, 22 years old, has always lived in this America. And that doesn't just mean that they've always lived in an America with lockdown drills at schools. He's always lived in an America where we dig through the manifesto of a shooter to figure out why he did it. We go through, his social media history to find out why he did it. The media writes endless think pieces about why he may have done it. And so to have that meta awareness is, I think, a very stark difference from the spree shooters and the school shooters 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And a lot of other shooters this year specifically have been messing with law enforcement, been messing with the media, because they know how we're going to react to these things. And they think it's a game. They think it's funny.
Today on the show, Ryan and I talk about how that came to be and why our institutions are so utterly ill-equipped to respond. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around.
If you're running a business, you know every customer matters. Whether you're a one-person operation or have a large team that needs better collaboration tools, OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that streamlines and scales your customer communications. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer, and your team can share one number and collaborate on customer calls and texts like a shared inbox. Plus, OpenPhone's AI agent can be set up in minutes to handle calls after hours, answer questions, and capture leads, so you never miss a customer. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone to manage their businesses' calls and texts. OpenPhone is offering What Next TBD listeners 20% off the first 6 months at openphone.com/TBD. That's OPENPHONE.com/TBD. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers.
Imagine fast hydration combined with balanced energy, perfectly flavored with 0 artificial sweeteners. Introducing Liquid IV's new Energy Multiplier Sugar-Free. Unlike other energy drinks, you know, the ones that make you feel like you're glitching, it's made with natural caffeine and electrolytes, so you get the boost without the burnout. Liquid IV's new Energy Multiplier Sugar-Free Hydrating Energy. Tap the banner to learn more.
I want to walk people through the timeline of events right after the shooting, because you and I are both pretty online. You're extremely online. I would say I'm very online. But not everybody is, right? A lot of people live like normal lives. Right after the video of Charlie Kirk's killing went viral, I wonder if you could talk about what the conversation online was like.
I've never seen anything like it.
Tell me more.
I've covered massive news stories via the lens of the internet, and I've been doing it for 15 years now. I've never seen the level of chaos, the level of misinformation, the conspiracy theories, the finger pointing, the moral panic, the unthinking algorithms spreading a piece of content like this so far and wide. I mean, if you were to compare this to an ISIS beheading video 10, 15 years ago, those videos would pop up on YouTube, be taken down almost immediately, and then maybe exist as screenshots on Reddit or a direct upload on a violence site, like rotten.com or something. This was a video of what is ostensibly a man being murdered, copied and sent around X specifically, but then everywhere else almost immediately. And I've never seen anything like that. And I do think a piece of that, I mean, obviously it was going to go viral inherently because it is an extremely popular person, like I said, surrounded by smartphones the moment they're being killed. But I also think that it's such a blunt look into what a school shooting looks like. That I think I previously called it sort of like one of the last taboos. Like, we don't actually see that kind of footage from inside a school like Parkland or Sandy Hook. We don't see it.
Right.
And for these deeply unmoderated, extremely unmoderated platforms to just unthinkingly take that video and send it to everyone's phones across the country, I think it is probably the last American taboo in a lot of ways to see it.
There was also, and a lot of this was filmed, there was like confusion about whether they had apprehended someone. This man was arrested saying he shot Kirk, only to later say he lied. And like all of that was also on camera. Like, what happened there?
So George Zinn, I believe he's 71 years old. And according to the Salt Lake City Tribune, I believe it was, they had a really good piece sort of explaining that George Zinn is just like a known disruptor. Like, he goes to events and he messes with people. He's like the local like quack kind of. He has since been charged with having child pornography on his phone, which has inspired a whole other wave of conspiracy theories.
Which is like this whole other weird coda.
Yeah. But the sort of presence of local weirdness isn't new for moments like this. Like, if you sort of think of school shootings or political violence or, extremism as this like other force that comes to your town. The media comes with it, law enforcement comes with it, and it tends to expose the weirdness that's just always been there, which is a lot of, I think, of what conspiracy theorists online latch onto, is that they can't possibly believe in just like the inherent weirdness of normal American life that ends up being exposed when you put this kind of, pressure or this kind of scrutiny on a community. And
right. Like, whereas if you live there your whole life, you're like, oh, it's that guy.
It's that guy.
Yeah, we did.
Exactly.
We know him. He's, yeah.
And that's my read on it. Now, obviously, maybe someone living in the community might have a different take, but like that's sort of reading local media. That was my understanding. But the footage of him being detained by police, being thrown to the ground, was absolutely a huge flashpoint for users who believed, one, that he was the suspect, and then once it was revealed that he wasn't, believed that he was working with the suspect or paid to, throw the police off their trail or whatever.
As you probably know by now, there were memes etched on the bullet casings that Robinson allegedly fired. The one that hit Kirk said, "Notice his bulge, ooh woo, what's this?" which is a jokey meme that originated with furries. The unfired casings say, "Hey fascist, catch," followed by an up arrow, a right arrow, and 3 down arrows, which are references and directions from the video game Helldivers 2. Another read, "Oh bella ciao, ciao, ciao," which is from an Italian anti-fascist song, but was also used by Netflix and another video game. Then there was, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO," which Ryan described as boilerplate edgelord speak. According to conservative influencer Steven Crowder and reporting from the Wall Street Journal, the agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms thought the etchings had something to do with, quote, transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Basically, they didn't understand them.
I know for a fact, just from friends I have in the extremism research community, that the FBI over the last 10 years or so has been pulling in like extremely online people to explain the internet to them, to understand domestic terrorism specifically. I don't know where those programs are at now post Doging, but that was a concern. But you're never going to understand it.
And that's the point, right?
Sure, to a degree. I also just think if this had happened 30 years ago, if Rush Limbaugh had been shot by somebody 30 or 40 years ago, and then we found out the killer had written Simpsons quotes on the bullets, that is essentially what happened here. The difference is that the way media works now is like, you may live your entire life and never know the Simpsons exists. Like, I could talk to you about what is it? The Italian AI crocodile that's really popular on TikTok right now, Crocodilo or whatever. And you might not know what I'm talking about, but 40 million people do. And that is the complicating factor with the internet, because we still have this like knee jerk. I wonder if this is a holdover from like incel spree shootings, 10 years ago, but we have this knee jerk reaction to believe that memes referenced in violent actions like this have to mean something and have to reflect a larger ideology or a larger truth.
Because otherwise it's so scary, I think.
To a degree. Hold on. Let me just say, yes, it is scary, but it is no different than the ramblings of, Timothy McVeigh or somebody. I think we assume because a deeply unwell person looked at the internet and then references the internet when they carry out something like this, that they've done something, unspeakable and unfathomable, but their media diet must be totally coherent. And we thought about this with Luigi Mangione too. And then you pull up his Goodreads, reviews, and you're like, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think it's a weird conflict at the heart of a lot of this, is that we assume these attackers have like a totally clear vision of the internet, even if they have a totally warped vision of reality.
Well, and also so many of those like digital breadcrumbs are available to anyone with just like a modicum of searching skills, right? You can read Luigi Mangione's Goodreads, whereas like 30, 40 years ago, it would have been a couple of FBI agents going through like pieces of paper, connected with the proverbial red string.
Exactly. It's like going through like the TiVos of the Columbine shooters to see what they were watching on TV, which, I should say, we have always had that reaction of like, what media was this person consuming that convinced them to do this? Was it video games? Was it violent television? Was it, the radio host they were listening to? So there's always a media component to terrorism. Like they're very linked in my mind. But the memes on the bullets that Robinson allegedly carved, to hear him say, to read him say it on Discord, like he thought it'd be funny if they read them on TV.
Then there seems to be this fracture that happens online where two competing narratives start to take shape. One is that he's a leftist, and this is what the president and the vice president, they're sort of positing this online. Then there's this other narrative that he's a groyper, a follower of Nick Fuentes. That doesn't particularly seem to be true, but these two ideas gathered velocity. What happened? How did those two ideas come to dominate discussion in these different communities?
They're not entirely illogical. So let's start with the groyper one, because I think that one is the most interesting here. So Nick Fuentes, live streamer, he has fans called the groypers. They name themselves after a fat Pepe the Frog meme. They're effectively as you would. They're effectively Christo-fascists who believe in an extremely isolationist America. They have a lot of beef with mainstream Republicans and the MAGA movement, who they see as sort of getting in the way of a more totalitarian vision taking form, right? And they targeted Charlie Kirk specifically because he was so visible and so clean cut and so obviously being groomed to sort of be the next in line for the MAGA movement. And so they would do what they called groyper wars, where they would go to Charlie Kirk events and disrupt them. They would shout and they would, try to make it impossible for Charlie to do anything. And that's been going on for years. So if you think about, okay, the majority of domestic terrorists in America have some kind of far-right belief. There's this far-right group that specifically hates Charlie Kirk and they go to his events. Not a crazy leap. They also love memes and they are super nihilistic and accelerationist. It makes total sense.
Yep.
On the other side of it, you do have this, you have this, I think, real anxiety from people on the left that there might be someone in their movement that finally snaps and gets them in serious trouble. And in fact, a large reaction from trans women I follow online right now this week is everyone will eventually have that one boyfriend that ruins your life, and that is a huge concern for the trans community right now. Is now there's a target on their backs. Because
it appears, we should explain, that Robinson was dating his roommate who is a trans woman. We think it's all a little bit shielded because this person is obviously traumatized.
Yes. And working with the authorities. The only reason Kash Patel's FBI knows anything about Robinson's personal life, which was originally reported as him living at home, turns out, no, he has roommates and talks to them all day in Discord. And one of them is reportedly trans, who was very, very forthcoming with law enforcement and gave them everything we have on him. So, but the right is also looking for a boogeyman. They're constantly looking for a boogeyman. And they were ready to go before we knew anything. Yeah. They're angry. I think conservative influencers in particular are scared. I think they now sort of understand that what they're doing has a real impact, and there's targets on them now. Yeah. And so they are looking for someone to point this at. They are angry. They are vengeful. J.D. Vance was personal friends with Charlie Kirk, to according to what I've read. And there is a real urge on the right for blood, for vengeance for this.
A lot of what we know, in as much as we know anything, comes from the charging documents. In those documents, Robinson's mother told police that he had started to lean more left over the past year. He told his partner that he had had enough of Kirk's hatred. But that's kind of all we know. And then it's that plus, what we can see on Discord, the texts that law enforcement released in the charging documents. And it just feels like there is this massive disconnect between what people want to believe and what we can actually point to any evidence for.
Yeah. We want to think that there is some sort of clear-cut explanation for something like this, which is in a certain part kind of natural. It's human. Yeah. But to carry out an attack like this, you have to have a pretty warped sense of reality to start. So it is, as I said before, like it is this very weird conflict at the heart of all of these incidents, is that we are looking for something that can explain it, that makes sense, but it can't at a certain point. You can't. You would have to like dig through this guy's head and figure out like every thought and like piece them all together. But okay, here's how you arrived at this conclusion. Like it's an inherently senseless idea and a senseless thing to do.
When we come back, why Congress wants to haul in the CEOs of Discord and Twitch. This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to get creative with your personal style and find the best arrivals for fall. Whether you're trying out the latest fashion trends or curating a closet that stands the test of time, Saks has you covered. Saks makes shopping feel personal. Their trusted in-store stylists are there to guide and inspire you, helping you find pieces that fit every aspect of your lifestyle. Prefer online shopping? Saks.com offers a curated selection tailored to your taste. From new arrivals by your favorite designers like Prada jackets and Gucci loafers to stylish pieces for your everyday needs. Whether it's date night, a vacation, a special occasion, or just lounging in style, Saks helps you find the perfect look for every occasion. If you want shopping to be fun and easy, then head to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to elevate your personal style every day.
Ford Blue Cruise hands-free highway driving takes the work out of being behind the wheel, allowing you to relax and reconnect, while also staying in control. Enjoy the drive in Blue Cruise-enabled vehicles like the F-150, Explorer, and Mustang Mach-E. Available feature on equipped vehicles. Terms apply. Does not replace safe driving. See Ford.com/Blue Cruise for more details.
Recently, we asked some people about sharing their New York Times accounts.
My name is Dana. I am a subscriber to the New York Times, but my husband isn't. And it would be really nice to be able to share a recipe or an article or compete with him in Wordle or Connections. Thank you.
Dana, we heard you. Introducing the New York Times Family Subscription. One subscription, up to 4 separate logins for anyone in your life. Find out more at nytimes.com/family.
I want to talk about the way this has happened a few times over the past few years with shooters and memes, because you wrote about this happening kind of repeatedly. When would you say that starts? Are we talking about Christchurch?
Yeah. So the big moment for me was Christchurch, when the attacker, he's on live stream right before he goes into a mosque to shoot a lot of people. And he says, 2019. And he says to the camera, subscribe to PewDiePie, the YouTuber, who was having like a subscriber war with another channel at the time. And I remember myself, some other reporters I know, my editor at the time, we all looked at it and we just thought, oh, okay. Like there's something has shifted here. And then, yeah, if you look across the timeline, there's a couple other spree shooters around the world that start to mess with, memes and sort of drenching what they're doing in internet irony. It has most recently become a very common tactic among shooters that are believed to be connected to this decentralized network called the Com Network, or sometimes it's called 764. They are effectively group chats that find vulnerable young people, groom them, convince them to carry out, different types of crime, or at the top level of this, mass shootings. They gamify it. They write memes on bullets. They pose for selfies and submit them to the group chat before they carry out the attack. There's evidence that 2 different shooters this year were talking to each other in one of these kind of groups. And they believe in a totally gamified version of mass violence, of political violence. They believe that it's something that you can use to have fun, to mess with people. It's very nihilistic. It's very dark.
So dark.
Yeah. And they sort of see it as a way to play with the media, to mess with culture, and they treat it like a leaderboard amongst themselves.
Which then brings us back to what you were talking about before, which is like the inability of our institutions, and I'm counting myself, I'm counting the media, I'm counting us as a part of this, to make sense of that because we like fundamentally, I don't know, want too much meaning from things that maybe don't have meaning. Like I don't quite know what to do with that because it feels like we are failing, we as a media and maybe also society, to explain this well.
Part of it is a tone issue, I think. There's no world where you can go on cable news in a suit and a tie or like a nice outfit and say, so this was a furry meme popular on Tumblr in 2015. Like, it's just not going to work.
Right. It's just like someone's going to look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah. It is much easier to go on CNN in your nice little clothes and say, we got to take away the internet. We got to ban video games. We have to take this so seriously. And it's not, it's not that I'm not taking this seriously. It's that like what they're playing with is inherently unserious. And so to give people the proper context, the reason earlier I was like, okay, if someone had killed Rush Limbaugh with bullets that had Simpsons quotes on them, like that's the equivalent that we're talking about here. The knee-jerk reaction from the mainstream media that I've seen so far, other than like just like completely misreporting what's on these bullets or what it means, is to take it very seriously, to claim that like the internet radicalized this person. And like I do believe that there are radicalizing effects within certain internet communities, on certain internet platforms with certain kinds of content. Like we know that there is a connection there, but we are also now dealing with a population where if you are under 25 years old, you have always lived in a world with something like TikTok, something like Instagram, something like Facebook, and mass violence. And so when you put all of those things together, you can't really say that like Discord convinced this guy to carry out this attack because he was in a shadowy chat room, one that reported on him immediately the minute he confessed, apparently. Yeah. So it's just that like technology is part of these people's lives, and internet media has become the dominant media type for these young people. And you kind of have to talk about it in this ironic, way, because for them it's not like a great movie. It's not like they like love memes like they love art. It's a different thing.
Well, even in the past week now, they're like memes on memes of like AI Charlie Kirk high-fiving Malcolm X.
I saw the Malcolm X one, yeah. I've seen
Erica Kirk ones. I just like...
I saw someone, I couldn't believe like an actual conservative made this one, but it was, they put his shooting through the Studio Ghibli AI filter.
Oh my God.
And they were like, this is a beautiful art tribute. And it's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, are your brains gone? Like, I don't know. Yeah. The way that because this is like, I think an important part of the conversation about like how the internet processes these things and how it influences these things is the internet is a two-way street. So it's not only that like you can upload your terrorism, it's that now because of how unmoderated these platforms are, people are going to take your terrorism and remix it. They're going to share it. They're going to turn it into memes. They're going to turn it into conspiracy theories because it's a conversation. So like you've effectively, like what we've done is effectively taken political violence, taken terrorism, taken mass violence, and turned it into, that's why I said like we turn it into a meme, because now people can take it and they can mess with it. They can change it and use it however they want.
So one of the probably predictable consequences of this is that Congress, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, is going to call in the CEOs of Discord, Steam, Twitch, Reddit, to talk about its users and what they say is radicalization of its users. But then we also have like this internet-enabled thing where conservatives are trying to hunt down people who said something bad about Charlie Kirk, not just famous people, just like regular people, and get them fired. And once again, it feels like the reaction is a little bit like half using the internet and half calling the internet bad, but not really moving beyond that.
Yeah, I think at the heart of both is just control. Like the Republicans want control. They want to feel in control. They want to have control. And so they are intimidating people. They are getting them fired. They are doxing them. They are building hit lists. You know, that is happening. They are also deeply media illiterate. So they don't really understand what they're doing at the top level. And they understand that there is some sort of connection between what happened with Charlie Kirk and, let's call it, gaming culture. And so they've picked all of the platforms associated with gaming culture. That, like, going after them at the platform level, there are things that can be done. There are always things that can be done to make these platforms safer and better for people. But the way that I always compare it is like, there are people who like soccer, and there are soccer hooligans that will burn down a city or start a race riot when their team loses. And that's how I think about gamers. Like, there are people who will play video games and be just fine. And then there are people who network with each other inside of games like Roblox or Fortnite or Minecraft or what have you, and then turn into like terror cells. And that is just like a thing that is part of like masculinity. It is part of competitive sports or socialization. Like, that's just a thing. And I don't think anything useful is going to come out of a congressional hearing with Steam, which is literally just like, I mean, it's like it's if you could buy if you could buy movies on Letterboxd, like that's what it is for video games. It's just like it's a marketplace. So they don't really understand what they're talking about. The inclusion of Twitch is also scary because there's a large, contingent of leftist streamers that are very popular on Twitch that, Hassan Piker being top of the pack there, that are very nervous that this could lead to a real crackdown there. And Twitch is one of the last non-algorithmic video platforms on the internet to be popular. Like, you can just put a video, you can stream there and just stream there. It can't be really throttled or suppressed the way something like YouTube could or Instagram. So these are really confusing reactions from the right, and I don't think it's like some mass conspiracy to like clamp down, but it's helping the sort of larger suppression of personal freedoms that we're seeing right now.
So I guess one question is just sort of like, okay, what now do we do, if anything, about online? Like Charlie Warzel wrote this piece in The Atlantic about, something is very broken in our online world. And I wonder, like, when we think about this, how to have that conversation without this kind of broad, overly generalized, acting out of fear thing that you're talking about. Like, whether there's a way to talk about what it's like to exist online and make it make sense, or whether it's just like, oh no, it's a reflection of society, and without talking about violence and masculinity and guns, you can't actually separate those things.
I think there are some things that cannot be separated. Like, there are some problems that we've had on the internet since the very beginning of it because they're just like intrinsic to the human condition. And there are also some things that the internet has born, that we also can't seem to get rid of. Like, I always sort of point to like, an eating disorders existed before the internet. The internet changed the landscape of eating disorders. Terrorism existed before the internet. The internet has changed the landscape of terrorism. Like, there are things that have changed, that have shifted. It has also invented like new ideas, new concerns. If we're talking about like, what do we do?
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues that I've seen since Charlie Kirk's death is like a lack of context. Because let's assume that no matter what now in America, the right wing in particular are going to turn it into a culture war, whether it's Cracker Barrel's new logo or Sydney Sweeney's jeans. Like, they are just going to flood the zone and confuse you and make everything political, because that's what they want. They want to make everything so exhausting that you can't function, you can't participate in society, and then they can just sort of like suck up all the oxygen.
Pretty effective strategy.
Very effective. I mean, yeah, Steve Bannon came up with it 10 years ago, and it works perfectly. One of the best remedies for that is context. One of the best, and not even just journalism. Like, we can say journalism helps, and it does help, but it's like getting people proper context, whether like that's, a better informed law enforcement, a better prepared media, or even just like a pop culture that kind of reflects that. Like I don't know if you've like watched linear television recently, but like it's an alternate reality. Like I kind of don't blame young people in particular for being frustrated or being or tuning out, but like everyone's kind of tuning out because like everything's kind of a mess. And I think one of the easiest ways to fix that is to, with Jimmy Kimmel being fired, this is kind of a harder conversation. Like there aren't a lot of places anymore to get information to people. And it's getting harder and harder. And I think the first step is you have to say, like, how do you create an informed citizenry again? That's problem number one. Everything else kind of comes from downstream from that. Like, and those answers are not easy to come by, but I do think it's the right question to ask is like, how do you inform people? How do you make the context, the information they need to understand an event like this, easily accessible, and immediate, within reason. And that is the question I hope most major media organizations are asking right now. I hope.
Ryan, Broderick, thank you so much for coming on. It was really enlightening and fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was a really pleasant conversation about some really dark, horrible features of our society. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Ryan Broderick runs the newsletter Garbage Day and is the host of the podcast Panic World. All right, that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell and Patrick Fort. Paige Osborne is the senior supervising producer for What Next and What Next TBD. Mia Lobel is the executive producer here at Slate, and TBD is part of the larger What Next family. And while you're here, please head on over to our Plus feed to hear the latest episode of The Discourse, which is exclusively for Slate Plus subscribers. This week, I talked with Slate's own Nitish Pawa about the latest TikTok deal and why nobody seems to be freaking out. All right, I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks so much for listening.
Doug. Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Your sausage McMuffin with egg didn't change. Your receipt did. The sausage McMuffin with egg extra value meal includes a hash brown and a small coffee for just $5. Only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Prices and participation may vary.